And we're here today to talk about Royal Roads University Bachelor of Commerce in Entrepreneurial Management. So I hope everybody's in the good Zoom room. And the title today is Accelerate Your Career. And I'm very pleased to be with Russ Porter, Program Head of BCom, that we like to call it. Hi, Russ.
Hello, Nancy. Thank you. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. And we have Rhonda Webster, which is an alumni, so BCom alumni, and we'll have some time with Rhonda throughout the session, about halfway through the session, to discuss our experience. So very pleased to be with you all. My name is Nancy Prévost-Maurice. I'm an education specialist, so I do student recruitment, bunch of webinars with all of you. So very excited to be here. And behind the scene, we have Tracy Sommer, that is one of our Enrolment Services person, and Tracy has been working with the School of Business for a long time. She knows so much, so she'll be helping out in the chat, adding some links, and do not worry, I'll share that recording with all of you after the session, so you can access all those links. And thank you for those of you who are using the chat already. When we start a presentation at Royal Roads University, we always want to acknowledge the indigenous lands that we're on. So maybe you can ground your feet to the floor right now and just reflect on those indigenous lands that you are on. I'm on campus today, so I'm very grateful to be joining from the Kasapsan and Lekwungen families and nations, also known as the Esquimalt and Sunhi. It's with deep gratitude that we now learn, work, study here, play here, where the past, present, and future of Indigenous and non-Indigenous people come together. If you know the Indigenous lands that you're joining us from today, please use the chat to introduce them. And our location, as I was mentioning, many people from across the world are joining today. So if you don't know where Royal Road is, we are in Victoria, British Columbia. So the population of Canada is 39 million. You can see Vancouver Island itself. It's quite big, 865,000, and Greater Victoria, where we're located, about 400,000. So depending where you're joining from, maybe for you it's a small city. For me, coming from Quebec City, is almost the same size city. I love living in Victoria. I find that it's a beautiful city. There's a lot here to do. And for those of you who are maybe coming from a larger city and wondering, oh, if I move to Victoria, for example, or if I study in Victoria, will I have big cities around? So the answer is yes. We're just an hour and a half of a ferry ride to Vancouver, which is one of the largest cities in Canada. And we're oh, I see more people joining. Hi, hi. And we're not too far from Seattle as well in the United States. So it's always good to go explore when you have a break from school or on weekends, you can go explore those larger cities. And the three top industries in Victoria, as you can see, advanced technology, tourism and hospitality, and education. One of the mildest climates in Canada, again, coming from Quebec. I love the weather in Victoria, and I know our guest speaker today is in Edmonton. I'm sure she'll be able to talk about how she found her experience in Victoria, but we have a mild climate all year long. So about 6 degrees in winter, 25 during summer. And a few awards, we're very proud of that. So Best Small Cities in 2022, Top Best Island in North America, Best Small Cities, Best Places to Visit. So I'm sure some of you know that Victoria is quite special, and we're very lucky that our campus is here. Talking about the campus, just a few images. The program we're talking about today is offering a blended option. So that means you study online, but you will come on campus for a few weeks during your program. So when you come to campus, you can admire those beautiful places. So on the top left, you have Hatley Castle, which is a castle that was built in 1908. Can you believe it? For a retirement house. So the Dunsmuir family was living here with their family, and then we became a military college, and we are a university, post-secondary institution since 1995. On the top right, some images of the trail. So you can walk, bike, hike everywhere on campus. We have 565 acres of land. At the bottom left, the Esquimalt Lagoon, and the mountains you see there are on the the Olympic Peninsula. I've been traveling there a few weeks ago and it was beautiful. So it's the United States on the other side, and this is a bird sanctuary, so very peaceful when you want to do homework or just go for a walk with your cohort or friends or family. And at the bottom right, the picture there is a reminder that at Railroads University, we do online education for more than 25 years. So this is not something we had to pivot over the past years with the pandemic, for example. It's really something we have been really good at since day one. And I'm sure some of you are thinking about Railroads as an institution. We know that pursuing a degree is a big decision for you. So why explore Railroads University? And maybe you can use your little reaction feature just to give me a thumbs up or a little heart if you came to Railroads before, if you know about us. So just to interact with you, if you know the campus or Railroads already, you can let us know. So we see life as a qualification. And here I'll just give you a few bullet points because I know Ross will talk about it because he knows so much about the program. So at Railroad, what we do differently, we try to do everything differently actually, and we really want to see who you are as a whole. So your past, present, and future really matter, and it starts with admission. So everything you have done in the past, which means volunteering, other education, your work experience will come into play when you do the admission process, and we'll talk about it a bit later. Faculty know your name. So it's very important. I'm a student myself, and it's good because at Railroads, we study with faculty and with our peers. It's not like a one-way education that you get all the lecture from an instructor and you have nothing to say. So it's very, I would say, bidirectional, and faculty will get to know your name. People call you by your name. You're not a number here. So it really creates that beautiful kind of atmosphere and trust within the cohort. So it's all about exploring theories and sharing perspectives. Learning based on life. So we are a university for working professionals. That's very important to say that because some people will decide to study and work at the same time. This is what I'm doing for 2 years now. So learning based on life. And what that means too is that what you experience at work, you can bring it into the classroom, and then that gives that kind of theory and practice coming together, and you can discuss those challenges, for example, with your faculty, with your instructors, with your cohort. Connection for life. This is a real one for sure. We have a beautiful network of alumni everywhere in the world, and people still keep in touch via LinkedIn, via events, and our network of alumni, as we can tell today with having Rhonda with us, it's really people stay connected to Railroads because they're really something special here. And we were built differently, the last bullet point, as we discussed. So we were built for working professional, online education, blended model, as we will discuss in a minute. And something to mention is that we are a Ashoka U campus, which is an accreditation, and it's all about social entrepreneurship and innovation. So I'll make sure to post the link, and we're only a few institutions in Canada and North America have that accreditation of Ashoka U. So you can see that we have something different, and we hope that this session will allow you to discover it. So I will pass it to Russ for more information about the program, and I'll stay in the chat to answer questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for your interest in the BCom and Entrepreneurial Management. So I'm just going to share an overview about the program, its ethos and its orientation, and to kind of set some expectations, talk about admissions and application and the upcoming dates to be mindful of, and then we're going to shift to a conversation with Rhonda as a recent graduate of the program, and learning about her experience and what drew her in, and how it's prepared her for the future. So building on prior point around our difference, I would argue this Bachelor of Commerce program is different by design. We're not trying to be like other business programs that are offered by other institutions. So there's a few things that make us unique in the marketplace. One is that we are a degree completion program, so we offer years 3 and 4 with the assumption that people are coming in with the equivalence of years 1 and 2, and I'm going to talk about both of our standard and our flexible approach to admission and how we value not only formal education, but life and work experience in terms of assessing what's equivalent for those years 1 and 2. So we offer 60 credits. We are a blended program, as Nancy said, that it's primarily online education, but we have 3 short residencies, 8 days or less, spread over a 2-year program design. So we're 2 years to complete. Some people take a little bit longer, but it's to be designed to facilitate completion within 2 years. I say it's part-time, but it's full on because, as Nancy mentioned, people are working and studying simultaneously. 90, 95 to 100% of the folks that are in the BCom program are not full-time students. They are studying while they are working and living and managing other commitments in their life. So we offer 1 to 2 courses at a time, but because that is significant in terms of an additional aspect of your life to manage, that's where I talk about it being full on. I'm going to share a little bit more insight on that. We'll hear from Rhonda on how she managed the taking on education on top of other things that she was managing through her life. I say it's boutique style. We are a small program with small class sizes. We have a purposely curated curriculum, a limited set of courses, no electives, so it's all in. It's like a fixed menu, but it's by design. We're very thoughtful about the courses that we have, how they're sequenced, and their content and approach to delivery. We emphasize applied and experiential modes of learning. So it's not simply acquiring knowledge and regurgitating that knowledge. It's actually getting real with the concepts, the skills, the theories, the approaches that you're being exposed to in each of your subject areas, and reflecting on what that means for you and how you can actually apply it in your work life, your present work life and your desired future work life as well. We have actively facilitated classes. So depending on what you're thinking about what online learning is, you're not in this alone. You're in with a cohort, and the classes in the BCom are deliberately smaller than what you would typically see in most undergraduate business programs across the country. Typical class size around 20, 25 to 30 people. And that's atypical in the undergraduate business space. And you have faculty that are actively facilitating the online learning experience. I refer to the whole approach to the program design as structured flexibility. It's flexible in the sense that it's been designed to help you acquire further education while you're working, but structured in the sense that it's sequential and it's purposeful in terms of its design and delivery. What that also includes is the ability to engage not only in live sessions that faculty host, typically on a weekly basis, but a lot of the work you're doing is on your own time. So you get to determine how and when you engage in your learning on a weekly basis. So it's sequenced. There are things to be doing each week, but how and when you engage in that learning, you have the ability to exercise your own agency over that, so that you can, again, balance your education with your work and other responsibilities. The great thing about learning and working at the same time is the opportunity to take what you're learning in your classes and seek to apply those learnings to your current work and to bring your work experience back into the classroom. So it's this virtuous feedback loop that is quite unique, that you don't get to acquire as easily if you were doing a full-time program where you remove yourself from the workplace to come and study. Because you're working and studying at the same time, there's great learning from both worlds into the other. So hopefully you're not feeling like you're living a divided existence while you're completing your education. Another difference for this program in particular is that it has a very unique demographic. Because people are working, because they're located across the country, we have people with a broad age range, from anywhere from 20s to people in their 50s that have decided to come back to university, pursue a business education, and to acquire that education while they are engaged in some sort of work practice. varied backgrounds and experiences, both in terms of work experience, life experience, and educational experience as well. So it really is unique. And in many cases, it's more like what you would experience at graduate school. So the average age of a BCom cohort is about 35. That is highly atypical in the undergraduate business space, where if you were at another university in year 3 and year 4, average age would be 20, 21, 22 years of age. That is not the reality within the BCom at Royal Roads. So hopefully you can feel more at home and more like you're with peers in this Bachelor of Commerce program. What unites people to come back to school and pursue a degree, but specifically this degree, is to expand the range of opportunities that are then made available, and to ultimately advance your influence and impact in your current work, or to position yourself to acquire that desired work or career trajectory that you are seeking, and utilizing education as an accelerator to acquire. I want to bust some myths that people often have when they're considering whether it be this degree or another, but specifically around the Bachelor of Commerce and Entrepreneurial Management. It starts with, some people come in and think of all business degrees are the same, so it's just a matter of choosing one that's the schedule's right, or the price is right, or the application or admission process works for you. I'm not saying those things don't matter, but you need to be considering that every business program has a different focus, has a different orientation, has different sets of courses, they're sequenced differently, their emphasis is different, and their delivery models are different. We're the only blended program, undergraduate business program by design in the country. So the idea of studying online but then coming to campus at set points through the duration of your program as you progress through it is of interest, and you see the value in that. We're unique in the marketplace because of that. And different business programs cater to different learners. Again, we are specifically focused on an older demographic and people who are working and studying simultaneously. Another myth that I think some people hold is that all online education is the same. And often people have some skewed or some interesting views of what actually online education is. Some people view it as studying like in a massive online open course like a MOOC, where you're with thousands of other people and you're just undertaking that by yourself, but in the midst of a larger group of people. Some people think it's like correspondence, where you're being sent a bunch of materials and you work through it on your own time and then submit when you're completed. This is not a correspondence program. None of the programs that we offer at Royal Roads are correspondence-based. They are not about passive learning. It is about active learning. And that's why we have things sequenced and structured to move people through each course and into the next term. So there actually are time limits. There are things to be doing each week. You're not alone. You're with a cohort of learners. And again, that is somewhat unique in the business education space in Canada. Another important one, I really want to emphasize this, is that this is a Bachelor of Commerce in Entrepreneurial Management. You might say, well, what is that? And hopefully you've read some of the web pages, and if you haven't, certainly go back and read what's communicated there. But it's not just about entrepreneurship as people typically conceive of it, self-employment, investing in a startup. It can be those things, but it can be so much more. And what we really emphasize is it's really a mindset or approach to how you create value regardless of your work context. So whether you work in the nonprofit sector, the public sector, the military, or the private sector, small, medium, or large business, these organizations are hungry. There is a need in the world for people who are entrepreneurially minded and motivated. And it's all about how you seek to create value, that is a natural impulse. And your goal is to be resourceful and to be somebody who is seeking opportunities to improve practice, to create solutions, not simply identify what's not working, but to move beyond identifying what's not working to say, and here's how it could work better. Ultimately, it's about developing the capacity and capability to turn ideas into action. So if those qualities, those attributes, those dimensions speak to you, then entrepreneurial management may be your thing. But the point is that it's more than how people typically conceive of entrepreneurship or being an entrepreneur. It can be those things, but the tent is much larger than just that. Another thing that people come back to school thinking, saying, oh, the key to my future success is just knowing more stuff. My limitation right now is not knowing enough about stuff. And I would say that may be the case, but I'm not sure that's enough to really differentiate oneself in the marketplace. There's so many different ways to acquire information and knowledge. It matters, but I want you to be thinking beyond that. It's also about knowing self, what you're on about, what you value, and exploring those aspects. It's about knowing how to do things, how to leverage knowledge and actually apply it for impact. It's thinking about the wraparound learning experiences, what you learn from others, what you learn about collaboration and critical thinking. It's around other skills and habits of mind and heart that you develop that really can set you apart and can be that career accelerator beyond simply acquiring more knowledge. You will acquire that, but you will acquire so much more. And Rhonda will share some of her insights and experiences on that. And at the end, your motivation does matter. Why you're here, why you're seeking to come back to school and then ultimately choosing to become an entrepreneurial management, it does matter. So you need to be reflecting on what it is about this program. What is it about the entrepreneurial management orientation? What is it about its design and delivery and the nature of the cohort model and this idea of a learning community and the demographic profile of the learners that is attractive and that might serve your purposes? Why now? Why this time in your life? And then ultimately, why you? And that goes back to your sense of purpose and your sense of direction and how you want to position yourself for the future and how this could enable that and ultimately accelerate your achievement of that. Hopefully that is clarifying, confirming, maybe inspiring to you. Briefly, in terms of just the overall design of the program, year one, you start online. We give you an orientation to the university and to the program. Then you move into your first core course in the program, our foundational business skills course, where you learn about the skills of collaboration, critical thinking, communication, and problem solving. Embedded in that is your first 8-day residency here at Royal Roads, and then you conclude that course online. So that first 5 weeks we called Foundations, to kind of set you up for success for the remainder of the program. And then you move into a series of terms that have you taking 2 courses at a time. Courses run 9 weeks, with the 9th week being for final deliverable. So kind of 8 weeks of active interaction with your colleagues and with your instructor. 9th week to conclude things, a week break, and then you move into your next set of courses. So that's what the first year looks like. As you move into your second year, you come back to Royal Roads for an 8-day residency where you conclude one of your courses, your entrepreneurship course. Over the first weekend and the remainder of the week, you start to engage in what we refer to as applied business challenge. We have a couple of those spread throughout the program. And the focus right now is learning the skills and habits of design thinking, which is a creative and problem solving approach that you're going to use to actively work together to address a challenge that's been put before you. Design thinking is very consistent with entrepreneurial practice, and it kind of weaves itself throughout the program. You leave res and then start to return to your online learning again, sets of courses, 2 courses at a time. And then you complete the program in what we refer to as the capstone project. That's where you bring all of your learning together. You've identified a challenge or opportunity in your workplace or in the marketplace that is attractive to you, and you get the opportunity to explore what that means in terms of it, putting that out into the world. So you create a business plan for some sort of venture or some sort of response to a challenge or opportunity that you see. You present it, you get some feedback, and then you write up your final plan as your final deliverable in the program. And I think that experience, and Rhonda again will speak to how she's been able to leverage not only the totality of her program, but also what happened in the capstone experience. So that's what it looks like at the current time in terms of our overall program design and delivery approach. A little bit about admissions. So we have two kind of pathways into the program. If you are somebody that already possesses 60 or more credits from a post-secondary university or institution, college or university, with at least a B average and 2 years minimum of work experience, then you can come in through our standard admission way. And then we also have our flexible admission, and we're unique in the marketplace to the extent that we value and recognize and acknowledge not only formal education, but your informal learning, your real world experiences and accomplishments, including work experience, but it could also be athletic accomplishments as well, because we have many athletes actually in the program, full-time professional or amateur athletes or Olympians in our program. If you come in with less than 15 post-secondary credits, we typically look for 7 years of full-time work experience, with about 3 at that kind of supervisory project leadership or project management level. If you're not sure how this connects with where you're at, then your best approach is to reach out to someone like Tracy in Enrolment Services to learn more and to receive additional guidance and perspective. About 80% of the folks that come into the BCom come in through flexible admission because they tend to be older and are bringing that wealth of experience, both life and work, into the program, and we're valuing that. It allows people to kind of hit the ground running in a different way than would happen in other business programs. Depending on your background and your familiarity with academic writing or accounting, we may require as a condition of your admission to complete one of our courses or an equivalency, and that just needs to be factored in. So if you're, that's why it's best to apply sooner rather than later. We have rolling admissions. It's always best to, but if you have a intake that you have in mind, we do 2 intakes a year, February, March, or August. And so you just want to be mindful of ensuring that you're in a position to satisfy any potential conditions before the program starts. Again, somebody in Enrolment Services or admissions will be able to give you, again, additional guidance and direction on that. Our next intake is August. Our application deadline is in May. And what that would mean in terms of when you would come to campus, it would be in September, because that first few weeks in the program actually is online before you come to campus. And I would encourage for anybody that's interested in the program and learning more to make sure that you do visit the program pages, where some of the information I'm sharing goes into further detail and also speaks to other matters that I'm not speaking to. You'll be able to find the upcoming schedule. You'll find more on admissions and application requirements, and it should help just to understand more about the program and how it might be a fit for you. So with that, let's shift to a conversation with a recent graduate of the program. Rhonda Webster completed the program last year, and I got to know Rhonda while she was making her way through the BCom, and it's my pleasure to have her with us today. Rhonda, thank you for making the time and joining me for you to share more about your Royal Roads experience, what you were doing before and what you're doing now, and how it all connects up. So before we get into some questions, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're located, the kind of work you do, and then we'll talk a little bit about your journey in and through and out of the BCom program.
Thanks. Okay, where I'm located in Edmonton right now. And what I do currently is I do social innovation, financial strategy for nonprofit organizations in particular, and small businesses. But since graduation, have expanded more working with nonprofits. And Ross, you're going to have to repeat your question because
It was just like, yeah,
okay.
where are you at? What are you on about right now? So it kind of sets the context for who Rhonda Webster is about, and then we'll dive into some of the questions that we have before us. But I just want to give people a bit of sense of what where you're at and the kind of work that you do.
Yeah, and my work too is my own work. So I came into the program being self-employed, and I continue to be self-employed. And since graduating, have brought on a part-time person to help me with the additional contracts that have been coming my way.
So stepping back, you were at a point where you said, I want to further my education.
Mm-hmm.
What was that about? What was the process like in terms of sorting out what kind of program would serve your purposes, and ultimately, why did you decide to pursue the Bachelor of Commerce in Entrepreneurial Management at Royal Roads?
Yeah, it wasn't my first choice, but it became my first choice. And I think I've shared this with you before, that I do have a university down the road from me that I could have gone to. And as I started to really dig deeper about what I wanted to get out of a program, I did look at a lot of what you mentioned, did my University of Alberta, provide real-time application? Was I actually able to work and go to university? Because it was very important to me to not quit what I had created for the 15 years. And also it felt wrong because I wanted to be able to apply what I was learning. And I had heard about Royal Roads actually from a community member that had gone to Royal Roads to do her master's, and she spoke highly of it. I have a family member who's attended as well. And when I started to research about particularly the entrepreneurial program, I knew it was an immediate fit. The fact that I could still apply my learning, the fact too that I would be with other peers that would also be sharing their learned experience, their education, their knowledge, that was vital to, even more than the courses at times, to hear their stories and their understanding. So knowing that I would come to a cohort like that, it just compelled me to move forward and put my application in.
So you make that choice. You decide that this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
You come in, you then experience the program, you journey through it over a 2-year time frame in the midst of some other challenges around us through COVID times and everything else. Reflecting back, what do you see as some of the most rewarding or beneficial experiences or outcomes that you were able to acquire because of your pursuit of the BCom?
There's a lot. First of all, for me in the program, it was working with teams was fundamental to the development of shared knowledge. It was coming into the program fed a curiosity that I didn't even know I had until I started learning about all the different topics. But it was so much deeper than that. It was this awareness that this might sound kooky, but it was about finding our purpose. Mm-hmm. And that was so much more the goal than just filling our brains with textbook information. And that became pivotal for me, especially after year one. And I realized that the whole point of coming into the program had everything to do with self-discovery, but I didn't even know that. I was just here to learn more school. I wanted to get better at what I was doing. I wanted to serve my clients better. I wanted to make a change in my community. So through that journey, I really recognized that there was just so much more that was going on, and self-discovery to the nth degree. It was very deep and personal.
So that was a pleasant surprise. It wasn't necessarily an expectation or an understanding you had to that extent coming into the program.
Absolutely. And I did receive a letter from, I'm not sure I always say Dr. Steenkamp's name properly, mm-hmm. but I did receive a letter from the president of the Royal Roads University upon finishing the program. And there were words in there that I have copied, I have framed, because and they just stick with me about really what was the fundamental reason of being involved with the program. And he said things like, you know, care for those who come across your path, create new and innovative ways of being, and lead with courage, and then actually live our learning. And those are words that I hold true every day. So when I am looking at a new contract, I think about those. Am I caring for those people that are coming across my path? Am I in this for the purpose of the better good? Am I going to make a difference? And am I going to be able to recognize the change that needs to occur and be able to actively support actions and getting the ball rolling and getting change occurring? Am I part of the solution?
So that kind of goes to another question I had here, and that was how you've been able to kind of build upon, leverage out of the BCom experience. So what is new or different in your world today that you feel has been enabled by the BCom program?
Two things. Confidence. I've definitely walked away with more confidence now in being able to speak clearly about what it is that I'm able to do. And I've always been good about recognizing my limitations, but now I feel that I've learned through the program that it's okay not to know everything. In fact, we're not expected to know everything. Why would we be in the program if we did know everything? But you take that one step further, that's not a crutch to live on. You go find the answers. So in my professional life, I've built a team, and I call on those connections to be a helpful resource for what it is that I need. It services the needs of my clients better, but I'm also finding that with that comes a responsibility, in that now I find my clients, it's almost like they rely on me to have an answer for them, or to at least have a direction of where they should be going. And they have faith in that what I'm saying to them comes with not only my education and my experience, but with the knowledge that I've actually talked to others in the field. It's not just coming from me.
So what do you attribute well, you talked to me the other day about the capstone experience and an idea that you were running through the program, and then ultimately in the capstone, and how you've been able to leverage that and incorporate that into your work today. Can you share anything about that?
Sure. Yeah. So the capstone project was a good beginning, and you were very clear about that. And I didn't believe you at the time. I hardly believed anything you said until after graduation.
Okay, so how about that? That answers my third bullet question. What do you wish you knew then that you do now? Pay attention to what Ross says.
Pay attention to what Ross says. Yes. Hang on every word. Yeah. So you know, we were told that our capstone would not be what it is when we were implementing it. And I thought, are you kidding me? Because you put in so much time, blood, sweat, and tears, that this was my baby, and that was definitely going to be. But one of the things that I forgot that we also learned is don't be married to your first idea. You got to be able to let that go. So have I let it go to some degree? I've been pivoting it and customizing it and realizing I've taken that capstone and created an opportunity to work with businesses always been working with strategic planning and connecting it to operational budgets. That's always been what I've done. But I've also been able to sit back more and listen to people and customize what they need according to growing change and opportunity. The main thing that I'm working on right now, and it's really in its infancy, but is working on financial literacy. I mostly with vulnerable communities. I mostly work with vulnerable communities. I've always worked within child protection and apprehension, and I've moved into my portfolio is with addiction recovery centers. So I have a personal and professional, I have a personal background and professional interest in those areas. And with that, experience married with the financial knowledge, and now having an entrepreneurial background, it has provided me with an ability to assess gaps, find where issues are arising, make recommendations as to how those issues can be fixed. And what's been beautiful for me is I've also been able to move forward using design thinking as a real foundation in finding solutions to problems, and doing that as a very human-centered model, which design thinking is. But I work with people who are very much triggered by ambiguity, and design thinking can be extremely ambiguous. So what I've done with the capstone model is I've actually made that be its own workshop in becoming comfortable with identifying self-purpose, inspiration, and motivation before moving forward in the vulnerable stages of design thinking.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's on the mind of folks that are with us and viewing this this interview about how do you manage life and work and studies. You're a busy person. You've been running your own business. You're a parent. You're married. You have other commitments and moving parts to your life. How did you manage through to acquire the value you did amidst all of the other commitments in your life?
In all honesty, sometimes I didn't manage it very well. Sometimes it was extremely overwhelming. Sometimes it was taking on really late nights and getting up super early the next day to do it all over again, and to be on your feet and be perky and be happy. And some days, you know, you just had to turn off your computer. It was during COVID too, right? So the isolation and COVID compounded with the complexity of school. Mental health was important, and there was a lot of outside activity. Sometimes I would take my computer outside knowing that I would not be able to speak in class because my Wi-Fi didn't reach that far, but I could get enough transmission that I could, you know, at least listen. It is really, really important for people to recognize their limitations, and don't expect too much of yourself, and forgive yourself if you fall short, and talk with your family and let them know what you need. I read, a friend of mine bought me a book after graduation, and one of the sentences in the book was, "What's the hardest word you've ever said?" And the response was help. And I thought, what a beautiful but most important word to say. So know when you need help, don't be afraid to ask for it, and make sure when it's offered that you accept that offer. And you know what I found too is people appreciate being able to have the opportunity to be benevolent and to provide help to you. And so it's not a shame. It's actually, you're doing something for somebody else by allowing them to help you too.
Knowing what you know now, including those reflections, would you have done anything different?
I thought long and hard about this. I don't know if I would have done anything different other than listened to my instructors more. I really thought that I could do more and better, and I didn't need to. My instructors would tell us how heavy the program was going to be, and they would set it out, and they would say, you know, I'm going to give you, 15 readings to do. Only pick 5 of them. No, I was going to do 15. You can't. And I think, I remember also our first residency was online because we were still during COVID, and I didn't book work off because I thought, I'll just be able to juggle too. No, they said it was going to be heavy. So believe what they're saying. They're not saying it to try to complicate your life. Quite the opposite. So I would have preferred to have listened to my instructors more and respected that they really knew what they were talking about when they say, this is heavy.
Heavy, but doable.
Well, it is doable. The other part of it, though, is that you're not just a number, and you're not just, 199 in a class of 200. Your instructors know you by name, and they care about you. And I found them to be very approachable. I had unfortunately, some sad news and occurrence in my family during COVID, and I needed to have just, a break. And you can ask for extensions is what I'm saying. You can ask for that help, and people will listen. It's a very caring institute. You're, like I say, you're not just a number.
And we want to see people succeed and help find their way. Yeah.
And
So
you
there's
guys,
some
you guys did that often, guiding us, but not leading us. And that was another word that was often stated, and that our instructors, it's almost like they shied away from the word professors or instructors or teachers. We're more guiding you. And they always said, we're learning alongside you, because they felt that, not that they were learning the material, but they were learning from us, our experiences as we were implementing. Many of us were implementing what we were learning in real time. And gosh, they were just as excited about what we were experiencing as we were.
Workload, just so you've kind of alluded to. And I would say to anybody, hey, you're accomplishing in 2 years what would typically take a lot longer if you were pursuing completing years 3 and 4 part-time in a different delivery model. So what did workload look like for you? And I realize it's highly variable depending on the nature of the activities that are being asked of students, deliverables. And you obviously probably started to adapt as you went through the program, where time is well spent, where time is maybe less well spent, but to kind of give people a sense of the order of magnitude of adding school on top of the rest of life. What was your experience?
I would think if I was going on a numbers basis, because I am a numbers person, I would say an additional 20 hours a week easy was needed. And we all get the same amount of time during the day. So where did that come from? And I mentioned it earlier. Sometimes it was really, really late at nights or really early mornings. So, classes were twice a week, and then team meetings, and then homework, and that the readings, the assignments, the papers, it's a lot, and you can't fall behind. So you've got to keep up with that every week, because if you think I'll make up for it next week, well, then you're putting in 40 hours, because whatever you didn't do this week, you're doing next week. So it was very important to keep up with the tasks at hand. Yeah.
I mean, my experience in talking to others, I would say that it might average out that some weeks will be less, some weeks will be more.
For sure.
As you indicated, it's about also learning how to clear your decks, what you can let go of or what you need to say no of or renegotiate to create the space. It might be strategically using some of your vacation time, or as you said, your evenings and your weekends to be able to do this. Some people are able to kind of reduce their personal workload in terms of their work to be able to create more time for school. I think everybody's situation is different. What those who are joining us today or viewing this recording can be assured of is that 2,000 other people have gone before you and have figured it out. And this is not unlike most of the other programs at Royal Roads. And I tell learners, one of the things you're learning in your first few weeks of the program is how you learn and how you can navigate the additional things that are on your plate now that weren't there before you started school. And there's value just in that alone, is figuring out how to get it all done and how to set priorities and how to manage time and commitments, and how you get loved ones or others in your life to support your progress in the program.
You really learn quickly what you can let go of and what is of value. And once, you quickly have to come to that realization, or you just start to flounder. Yeah. And if you're saying yes to something else, to something, that means you're saying no to something else. And is that no that you're saying, is that something that you're saying no to? Will you regret that, or will you actually long for that? So I found myself really balancing family and school. Work actually became busier, A, because of COVID, and B, because I think I just got better at what I was doing, and so the clientele base grew, and that was crazy.
Yeah.
But
I think it'd be fair to say there will be others that you journeyed through, or others that have journeyed through the program that maybe have been less effortful, but still able to acquire value and navigate through the program. You're a high achiever. And that's also what's positioned you to be able to really leverage your learning for personal and professional impact. And I would say to those that are listening in that it is a very personal journey. There's shared experiences and learnings, but how you navigate through comes down to your motivation, your context, and what it is that you're trying to ultimately realize, more of, less of, or different by pursuing the program. What insights or what advice, counsel, perspective would you have others be mindful of if they're considering the program?
get involved, ask questions, show up. And I don't mean just show up like to your nightly classes or twice weekly classes, but actually show up curious, ask questions of your cohort, of each other. When you're given teams, you always work within a team, work with the team. And I have found that this has been instrumental and successful for me after graduation, that your team, we carried on our, as you know, there's no teams in Capstone, but we carried on our teams. The point is that these are people that understand the program, they're with you, they're part of the course. And I find that being able to make connections with the cohort, I have lifelong friends from this program now, and it was necessary to provide not only the educational support, but that personal support too. It's a grueling program with so many benefits that you need to share the highs and the lows, that your family doesn't always understand what that experience is, but your team does. And I found that for me it was necessary.
Thank you for that, and thank you for all that you've shared about your experience. So in the time remaining, I welcome questions, curiosities that folks have, either based on Rhonda's experience or anything that I've shared. One inquiry is about class. So I want to kind of frame when we use that language, because it's primarily an asynchronous program. So there is synchronous live components to it. There's some times clearly when you're on campus for residency, but in the most part, when you are doing your online learning, there isn't a specific time that you are required to show up. You're invited to, you're encouraged to. The opportunity is there to join a live session that a faculty that will host, and we can call that class time, but it's not as you would think of class time if you were a full-time on-campus student, where you're being lectured at, and that's the totality of your class experience throughout the week. It's simply something to augment what you're also interacting with online. So there's an opportunity to dialogue for the faculty member to express different aspects or perspectives or dimensions of what's happening in the course, what's happening in the forum discussions, what's coming up for the week ahead. So typically, live sessions are scheduled, say, 5:30, 6:30, 7 p.m. Pacific, to accommodate both people who are in Western and Eastern time zones, but they're recorded, and so that if you're not in a position to attend live, the only expectation is that you view the recordings, because there'll be important information that will be communicated and worked through in those, and that just becomes another course resource, like a podcast, like an article, like a text resource, or anything else that's contained in your online course. So it's people are absolutely encouraged, because it can be very edifying and beneficial to attend live. But if you're not in a position to do so, we don't want that to get in the way of you doing the course and pursuing the program. And so there are ways to access that information without attending live. So I'm hoping, I just want to clarify that. There will be other times where, yes, it is required, but for the most part, in a typical online course, if somebody is holding a weekly hour or two session, it's an asynchronous program, and you can choose to show up synchronously when those opportunities are available. Other comments, questions, curiosities that any of you have about what has been shared thus far?
A question I got in the chat privately was about the residency. Can you explain what a residency is?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so depending on where you live, it might just be driving out to the university, but so we have people who are located both locally and right across the country. There are 3 residencies, and what we mean by a residency is a time where you are actually in person on campus with your cohort, engaging in some sort of learning experience. So right now we're in the midst of a Res 2. I'll be going interacting with some students later today. So they're here for their second residency. I'll just kind of describe the current lay of the land, because things we're always evolving and changing what actually happens in residency. But your first residency is 8 days long and is part of your ENM 300 course Foundation Business Skills. So there's going to be an opportunity to further onboarding and orienting into the program, but also actively engaging in some real-time learning with your cohort. So you'll be learning by doing, thinking about much of your time in residency is learning by doing rather than simply acquiring information, because that is primarily enabled through some of the online components. It's community building. It's rolling up your sleeves and interacting with the learning and seeking to apply it against some sort of challenge question that has been posed to you. The students this week that are here for their second residency completed their entrepreneurship course on the weekend, where they were presenting the outcome of what they did in that course. And then for the remainder of the week, they're doing something called design thinking. So they're engaging in a design thinking challenge for the remainder of the week that's having them learning by doing. And in the third residency that is now part of the capstone course, that's where students come back and they actually present their capstone idea to a panel, get some feedback that they're able to then utilize to finalize their final written deliverable for the program. But things might evolve and change by the time you come in. But ultimately, think of 3 times where you're on campus for 8 days or less over that 2-year span. So the beginning of the program, the middle of the program, and to the end of the program. And I would say what we've heard from students in the kind of pre and post-COVID experience was illustrative of this, is that people said that their time at residency was fundamentally grounding and reorienting for them. It was a difference between continuing and not continuing, to feel like they're rooted and grounded in a place and in relationship. And it allows them to feel a deeper sense of connection with one another and with the university than if they were studying completely online. Yeah, I'm hoping that's clarifying as to what to expect. The purpose of residency and what to expect. They're full days, but it's quite an engaging experience while you're here on campus. Yeah. Other comments or questions before we break? I know we're at time, but if there's anything that's on your mind, you're probably not alone in wondering about that. And if what we've shared is piqued your interest or kind of confirmed that this is a program that you want to further explore, absolutely reach out to Tracy or Enrolment Services. I'm also happy to speak to any prospect at any stage of the process of making an application to the program. We have financial aid and awards that are available to support your financial success. And then, of course, enrollment services to give some wayfinding and guidance as you consider the options available to you at Railroads, including the BCom program. So be sure to reach out and speak to somebody rather than making that decision necessarily in isolation. Make sure that you consider what we've shared today, view the program pages, maybe look at prior videos. We have a number of testimonials from graduates. I have some video interviews of graduates, and there's some also alumni stories. All that's laid out on our program pages. So make sure that you look at that, because that might be the difference maker for you deciding what is best for you in terms of your next steps for education. So thank you, everybody, for your time and attention. Yeah.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you.